Updates, also something opening up with the Office of Emergency Services, so you explain all of that. But before we do, if you have a Bible or a phone with a Bible on it, I'm going to have you turn to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 9. Gospel of Matthew chapter 9. And if you don't, that's fine. Someone at your table will. So Matthew chapter 9. And here's what I want you to do at your table. Have a designated reader. So one of you will read a passage. And then I want you to talk about Jesus' interaction during this time of crisis. So I want you to just read, reflect, and then respond. Read it, and then reflect on what Jesus, how he interacts during these times of needs. Read some of the nuances of what you're going to see, and then I'm going to have you write down some of the concepts that you discuss. So pick someone to be a reader at your table, and someone to be the scribe. And I'm going to hand out some paper that the scribe can actually read. In the passage, as I'm going to distribute these around the room, the passage is actually chapter 9 of Matthew from verses 18 through 26. So for the recording, those listening online, Matthew 9 verses 18 through 26. And in your groups, reflect on Jesus' ministry to those in need. All right, I'll pass these around. Go ahead. You can read it and then write down some of your thoughts. All right, you may begin. Okay, here's what I want you to do. You've reflected and on the scriptures. Now, literally, you can go anywhere in the New Testament and read the testimony of Jesus ministering to people, and he's demonstrating for us the heart, the compassion, the essence, really, of what it means to do ministry out in the public, which is chaplain's ministry. He's being a chaplain out in the community. Again, I always like to encourage people, pastoral ministry generally is done with the church together in the building where the church meets, where chaplaincy is taking the pastoral ministry out into the community, whether where you work, where you live, where you play, or in agencies where we partner to be able to serve alongside them. So our pastor, Pastor Miles, is very committed to preaching a ministry, though, that's not about just gathering information. In fact, you'll hear this constantly from the pulpit. The Bible is not just to give us information, but it's to bring transformation. So in your groups, you've gathered some rich insights into what Jesus did. So here's what I want you to do now. Reflect on what he did, how he demonstrated his ministry out into the public. And I'm going to give you about 10, 15 minutes. Here's what I want you to do, is as a table, I want you to share some testimony of what you've been doing, some of the ministry you've been part of, that you've actually been doing this out in the community. I'd like not everyone needs to share, but those of you that feel led, share some testimonies of what you just read, the information there, how has it been delivered out into the community? Now you received also this information. Let me just rehearse for you. Last year, the chaplain team, you all contributed 1,890 people came to the Lord through your ministry. Individual and group, 1,890 individuals. 163 people were baptized. 7,816 people were personally served through your ministry. We have about 119 chaplains now. Well, actually, now we're about 124. We've had some people move and discontinue. But you contributed 28,680 hours of service to the community. I want you to realize, too, the chaplain ministry, and you're about a third of the chaplains that we have. You contribute to our service to our city actually more than some of the campuses. Some of our campuses, an entire church campus, serving out into the community. The chaplains individually and what you're doing in the community actually represents an entire campus of the hours that you're contributing and serving. You received just a quick overview of all the locations where we have chaplains serving. And if you have an area that you're serving that's not on this list, please see Geraldine. Make sure she's aware of that. Now, we've had some people say, well, San Diego County. Well, we want to narrow down who in San Diego County. What part are you serving specifically as a community chaplain? But read through this list. In fact, I got an email today. The Navy Yacht Club, every year they launch out in the spring, and our chaplain, he just emailed me. They've asked him to do the invocation again and share a brief encouragement, as he's a chaplain for the Navy Yacht Club. You know, I call him Commodore Chaplain. But a lot of fun things there. But you're doing amazing things, and I want to honor you. Now, but I want you to share personally, what is it that has been being fulfilled? Because we read this in the Bible, but a lot of you are living this out in reality. You're by bedsides of people who are passing away. You're following up on people who've lost their lives, their family have lost a loved one through suicide. You're with people whose animals are just in a real sad time and coming alongside of them during a time of loss of their pets. I mean, there's so many stories here where you're doing exactly what Jesus did, but I want to celebrate that and have you share some testimonies, okay? So go ahead and do that at your table. One of you lead out, a couple of you lead out, share those specific things you just shared. How is that being lived out in your ministry? All right, go ahead. I'm going to give you 4 principles that all chaplains should know. LOVE. It's on your study guide there. Everyone we minister needs love, right? Yeah. Okay. The way we attend to this, number 1, listen to me. It was so funny. I was privileged to be able to speak at a church this weekend. Spoke at another church, and I gave a message on God is now here. And my wife was there. We made my books available, and so, but the pastor, he forgot her name, and he kept calling her Linda. So Pastor Mickey is here, and his wife Linda. So after the service, I went up to her and I said, "Linda, listen to me." My wife didn't think that was so funny. But here's 4 little quick principles that when you can enter into any situation, enter into any helping situation, we want to bring love. And number 1, listen. If you can be an attentive listener, and let me encourage every man in this room, you will do well in your relationships, if you're married, in your friendships, in your workplace. But if you're a man married to a woman, if you can be more attentive and focused listening to those in your household, you'll find a great response. We tend to get distracted easily, and to be more attentive in our listening. Now, in any crisis situation, a lot of times we can be overwhelmed by all the needs and the situation. We're trying to figure things out. But one of the greatest things we can do is just focus and attentive listening. We have a whole class on that we've been through, the assisting individuals in crisis. It's about active listening, that you just give your full attention, body language, acknowledgement, just repeating things you're hearing would be a great benefit. Number 2, next to listening is then observe. Because you're observing different things about them, agitation, behavior, observing their circumstances, observing the body language they're expressing. You're going to observe things in the spirit where you're sensing there's perhaps some torment, there's some great pain, there's some anguish that's maybe not even involved in what this incident is, but as you observe physically and spiritually, that you're really trying to see the whole environment of what is going on. V is to validate the individual and their story. You know, it's one thing not to believe a person. It can be so disheartening. And at a time of need, a time of crisis, people need to be validated. They need to be affirmed in their identity in Christ. Pastor Miles again, he shared Sunday, he's going to be speaking at a high school to over 1,000 girls and nearly 1,000 guys separately. And they said, speak on anything you want. And he's gonna value, he can't preach the gospel, but he's gonna affirm their identity, their value. So validate or value the individual in their true identity. A lot of times we can look at the negative side. You can, you know, when someone, you know, it just, God speaks to you that this person maybe has a problem with lust, for example. What you would share is, you know, God has shown me that He's calling you to a life of integrity, a life of virtue. You don't have to call out the sin, call out the virtue of who God sees them to be in Christ. If you sense person's lying, you can affirm that God has called you to speak truth and to value truth and to affirm the truth. And so in every situation, when a person's in a crisis, a lot of times it's an opportunity for the enemy to start twisting, condemning, lying to a person. You know, we have a class for our care counselors right now, and we're looking at different aspects. How do you know when, for example, a person who's schizophrenic and they're hearing voices? Is that psychological? Is it spiritual? Is it physiological? And my encouragement is you don't have to sort all that out. No, it's all of it. And all of it can be at play. The physiology, because when there is a hormone imbalance, the enemy will use that to start speaking lies, condemnation, to where someone falls into further depression. And so even when there's a physiological challenge, the enemy's going to be there to start distracting, tearing down, destroying. And so a lot of our ministry, so much beauty happens when you validate or value the true identity of a person. And so listen, observe, value or validate, and then last, of course, is encourage. To encourage people on their next steps towards help. We can have 59 steps to help people, but in reality, love is at the foundation. When people are listened to, when you're very attentive to the needs, observing what the needs are, you're affirming or validating who they are as a person and bringing encouragement. That's love in action. When you read through the New Testament, you're going to see so much of what I just shared, what Jesus was doing in the lives of the people He ministered to. So I want to encourage you on your testimonies and stories. Now, our next meeting, it's on the bottom of this paper. Next quarterly meeting, we're going to actually be moving around the county for our meetings. Our next meeting is on Monday, May 21st. We'll have a shorter dinner time. I'm going to have food ready to go. And so, but we're meeting at the Red Cross headquarters. The Red Cross leadership going to be sharing some of their perspectives. They love what we're doing, and you may not be aware of this, some of you may not be aware, but the Red Cross is calling us on a regular basis now to follow up on some of the clients that have needs beyond what they can help with. And our chaplains and pastoral support team, we have people that are following up and caring for them. So we have a great partnership with the Red Cross. Also, they're reviving the Red Cross spiritual care. And one of our own chaplains, John Hine here, is part of the leadership team that's going to be helping to build back up for the Red Cross spiritual care as part of what they're doing. So we're going to be meeting there May 21st. I'll send out a reminder on that. We'll have dinner together. Red Cross will be speaking to us, and we're going to partner on some of the things that we get to do. So we'll be learning about that organization. In the summer, our third quarter meeting, we're going to be meeting at the 211 Center. The leadership of 211, who has a great relationship with us at the Rock Church. You're going to learn about all their services and all the things that they do for the community, and we're part of that service as well. So I'll send you information on that later. I also want to point out on the back of your handout I gave you is a list that just came in this week for some of the prayer requests from our chaplain team. I want to encourage you to take this with you and be in prayer. We get literally every week lists of prayer requests, and I forward these to a prayer team. I also read through them. I'm praying and just really valuing what you're doing. But some of our chaplains have our own battles that we're dealing with. So I really want to encourage you to pray for this as well. And then keep sharing your stories. Every month, a monthly report goes out where you have the opportunity to share some of those stories. And I realize, we have a publication department who gathers the stories. They follow up on individual leads, the things they want to publish, put on the internet, and they do things. Some of them they've done into a video where they've gone and interviewed, then they show them on Sundays and things like that. So those stories are real valuable to me. And I thought maybe this next month I'll share all the stories with all of you. I'll send the document out. They're little snippets. They're not the full-length story, but sometimes we follow up on those. Please continue to fill out those monthly reports. Even if you don't have anything to report, just fill it out, nothing to report, and then list a prayer request for us. That would be great. Because that's how we gather the data, and all that information goes to our executive leadership. And I'll tell you, Pastor Miles loves this ministry that you're part of. Our vision of Rock Church is to establish global pervasive hope. It's taken the ministry outside of this building to every street, every person, to win a person to Christ, to see them built up and equipped and then sent back out to save, equip, send. That's our mission: evangelism, discipleship, equipping, and then sending people out to duplicate that. Well, our vision to establish global pervasive hope, every street, every person, this list here is the realization that we're starting to bleed out with the love of Christ into the community. It would be beautiful to have a chaplain at every business, every street, every neighborhood, like Neighborhood Watch, Chaplain Watch, that's praying for their neighborhood. So I want to encourage you to continue to stay faithful on that. Now, you'll receive some information on some of the trainings coming up. Next month, in March, I have a basic chaplaincy course, so please spread the word to other people that may be of interest and take that. But the Crisis Response International, it's a ministry we partner with. We helped financially during the last year's disasters, the floods in Florida, or the hurricane in Florida, the floods in Texas. We supported Crisis Response International on some of the relief work. Some of our chaplains serve with them. They're going to be in town at the Rock Church and holding their basic disaster response, where you can be certified to go with them. So I want to encourage you to consider that. If you're interested in doing national or international disaster response, that group, they're friends with me. I do training for them, just a wonderful ministry. And then in May, I'll be teaching a new course. I've never taught this course. It's a newer course for CISM. It's called Emotional and Spiritual Care in Disasters. And then the spiritual, actually those two are getting flipped, I'm sorry. The one in May is Spiritual Psychological First Aid, and then the one in July is Emotional Spiritual Care in Disaster. Sorry about that. That's my bad. I haven't switched those out yet. Please pass the word on the classes. Appreciate you with that. And here's how I want you to close. Wait, no, forgot about this. Office of Emergency Services. Let me explain. Let me explain to you, Linda. Listen to me, Linda. I've been working with the Office of Emergency Services since 2003, the fires. And actually before that, when I started a chaplaincy with the medical examiner with Joe Davis. And in 2007, the Office of Emergency Services asked me to put together a chaplain corps of chaplains to serve in more major disaster or crisis, loss of life. Some of those significant shootings we've had in Florida and Las Vegas, where there's significant loss, it exceeds the capacity of our medical examiner to really help all those families. So we have a chaplaincy for the Office of Emergency Services. And they are police and fire chaplains that are already serving. They're highly trained individuals that already serve with police and fire. They've agreed to be part of this. And so I have about 25 of them around the county that if there's a major event, we coordinate them. Well, in my work with Office of Emergency Services and the way things are going, the floods they had up north, the mudslides they've had, and the fires and so many disasters that are just keep growing and growing and growing, we realize that our chaplaincy that we have with OES will not be big enough for a major event. And so they're allowing me to expand where we have level 1 chaplains that are already serving with a public agency, and a level 2 chaplain are the Rock Community Chaplains. And so if this is something you would want to be part of, it would be during a major event where I would be calling you to an information meeting and assigning you to help out at that event. I have a form for you to fill out. It's a government-sponsored chaplaincy, and so you're not allowed to preach. It's serving the physical, emotional needs of the community, and so it's not a spiritual care type thing unless a person opens up and they ask for that. And so it's not aggressive in evangelism because of governmental entanglements. But that's all part of your training, so you should know how to walk through and navigate that. But it's not a church ministry, it's a government-led ministry or a government-led service. So, and what you'll do is after our meeting today, you're going to fill out this form, the front top here, and not all of you necessarily want to do this, I know, but I'll make this available afterwards. You're just going to fill out the top and then print your name in a section there. And if you want to do this, you're going to stay afterwards because I have you raise your right hand and you actually have to swear an oath to the Constitution and affirm these values, okay? And you will be put into the system as a disaster services worker as a level 2 chaplain with the Office of Emergency Services. It's not for everybody, but if it's something you would like to be part of in this, I'll have you fill this out, okay? So here's what I would like you to do as you finish out. Number 1, if you're serving in a chaplain area of ministry that's not listed here, in fact, I just noticed Peru, South America. That's a mistake. We're expanding well. We've taken over Peru. Okay. So we may have a chaplain there, but we want a specific location where that chaplaincy is at. At the close of our meeting, here's what I'd like you to do. Stay at your tables, and just 1 or 2 of you close in prayer for you as a group and for this ministry. And then those of you that are interested, after you finish praying, I'm going to be over here on the far, your far right, my left. I'll be handing out these forms. It takes about 2 minutes to fill it out, and then and it costs $10,000. I'm just kidding. It's a free service. All right, go ahead at your tables. This concludes our meeting. You can pray. When you're done, come and see me if you want to join the Office of Emergency Services.